It's Tuesday, everyone. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Benit Rach. We're here in the Vancouver newsroom. Here are your top headlines today. Well, the Heiltsuk Nation has filed a lawsuit against the RCMP. The nation claims that the force is failing to enforce trespass bylaws on their reserve lands and claims that this alleged failure of enforcement is racist, discriminatory, and violating their charter rights. Leaders say they want to have more done to better protect their communities.
This refusal to enforce First Nations bylaws is a Canada-wide issue that erodes the rule of law in First Nations communities, exasperates systemic problems involving substance abuse, deprives First Nations governments of the necessary tools to protect our communities.
The nation says that the lawsuit seeks equal treatment to that provided to non-Indigenous communities, and having helped to remove anyone who has no right to live on the reserve, has lost residency rights due to serious criminal activity, or creates a public safety risk in accordance to Heiltsuk law. And the nation says the lack of enforcement comes as drug dealing, overdoses, and trespassing are rampant in the community. The RCMP has yet to file a statement of defense and did not respond to a request yet from CBC. Also, Pope Francis, who is hospitalized in critical condition with double pneumonia, has named a new archbishop for Vancouver. The Vancouver Archdiocese says the Pope has appointed Archbishop Richard Smith. Smith has been serving as the Archbishop of Edmonton. He was also the general coordinator of the Pope's trip to Canada in 2022. Smith said that he is grateful to Pope Francis for the confidence placed in him to take on this new mission. And the announcement also comes as Pope Francis remains in critical condition despite a slight improvement after 11 days in hospital. The Vatican says the Pope was well enough to make some governing decisions recently. And also, a heads up if you are going on Highway 3 soon, a snowfall warning has been issued for Highway 3. That's between Paulson Summit and the Kootenay Pass. Environment Canada said the area could see 15 to 20 centimeters of snow today, and this is all being caused by a low pressure system that's moving through southwestern BC. The agency says the snow is expected to taper off later in the afternoon, but again, warning drivers that those conditions can change very quickly and impact visibility. And also, BC hip-hop duo Snotty Nose Rez Kids was nominated for 3 Junos this year. And on Monday, the Junos also announced they'll be performing on the big night. The duo spoke to CBC's Stephen Quinn about their latest album, Red Future.
Now we get to do it in our home city, and we get to do it for our city. So, this is definitely, a special moment for us to be able to do what we do here in front of our hometown.
We wanted to have as many Indigenous voices as we could because we all come from the same place, but we all have different points of view. Mm-hmm. And that's what each and every single artist brought.
The group says that they grew up without exposure to Indigenous artists because of slow internet on the reserve and no social media at the time, but they really hope that their music can now inspire lots of future generations of Indigenous youth. Okay, and you are updated. That's it for now. I'm Benit Rach. You're watching CBC News BC. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The question of leadership is top of mind for Canadians these days. The Liberal leadership debates are taking place. Just this morning, Andrew Furey, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, announced he is stepping down, saying it was time to move on. And just days ago, PEI's Premier announced his own resignation. We're asking you what is needed from a leader of any party or any level of government right now. What challenges do these leaders face? After 12:30, we talk earthquake response and preparation. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. This morning, an unexpected announcement from Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Furey. Flanked by his family, Furey announced it was time for him to move on. He acknowledged he was leaving at a time of great uncertainty.
Now, I know these are uncertain times, and that the threat of tariffs and the erratic, unpredictable behavior of the American president is causing daily stress and even fear. I wish I could tell you that this is a short-term concern. Unfortunately, it is the reality not just of the next 4 weeks or 4 months, but the next 4 years. But we have survived much worse. We've persevered through harder times, and we are in the best possible position to do so again. The energy that we have is the energy the world needs right now, and that will only get stronger moving forward. But now the time has come for me to return to my family and to the job that I love in the operating room, where I will continue to serve the people of this province in a different way. As a result, I've asked the party to begin a leadership race to replace me.
Now, Furey said he had very mixed emotions, but he also talked about the impact on his personal life. Just last week, PEI Premier Dennis King announced he was stepping down after nearly 6 years. And he said he made the decision after a long conversation with his family over the holidays. And in other news, Ontario, meanwhile, in the middle of a snap provincial election and federally, Liberal leadership candidates took the stage in a French debate last night. And tonight, Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, and Frank Baylis will debate each other in English. You can tune in to CBC television for special coverage starting at 5 p.m. our time. Amid all of this, of course, the tariff threat from Donald Trump looms large. And so we're asking you about leadership. What kind of leader is needed right now from any party or any level of government? And what challenges do you think the next prime minister faces? Call us now, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Shachi Kurl joins me, president of the Angus Reid Institute. Hi, Shachi.
Hi.
Okay, we don't often hear clips of an Atlantic premier here on BC Today, but what a political bombshell. Not one, but two Atlantic premiers stepping down in a matter of days. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think this is a bit of a gut check moment for a lot of politicians who may have been toying with the idea of maybe not running for another term, or maybe were thinking that it was time. And the backdrop of what the country and indeed what individual provinces are facing in terms of the economic threat that they will have to meet and deal with and manage, and when you're a politician, bear the scars and the bruises from as a result of these threatened Trump tariffs. I think many are having these moments. Maybe it's staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. Maybe it's out walking the dog or during a quiet moment of meditation, whatever it is they do. I don't know what they do. And really asking themselves, like, is this really the next 4 years for me? Do I have the stamina? Will my family accept basically not seeing mom or dad for the better part of the next 4 years? Because we are into now, Michelle, I don't think this needs saying, but I'll say it. The next 4 years are going to be all-encompassing for policymakers in this country. There will be no let-up. And if you came into politics with a particular agenda that you wanted to implement, with certain things that you wanted to accomplish. Well, guess what? That whole playbook and platform is out the window, and everything is very reactive, and everything is very much now focused on how to keep Canadians, regardless of what the province they live in, basically upright and whole through what could be one of the worst. And I say this, we're just 5 years from the onset of COVID and the lockdowns that created that once in a lifetime economic crisis. We are now heading into potentially what could be the defining economic crisis of our time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The history books keep getting rewritten or more chapters added once again. It's interesting because this was kind of a window into the personal toll that being a politician, public service can take. Just hearing Fiore this morning speak about that, and also suggesting that yes, this tension with the United States under President Trump would be here for a longer time than certainly longer than shorter. Kind of trying to set the stage for the successor. So when you think about politicians, whoever will succeed, Fiore, King, whoever will win the Liberal leadership, whoever will win the Canadian federal election, what is the biggest challenge in front of them then?
I mean, it will be all about managing what is already and what already has proven itself to be an incredibly volatile White House. And I know that there are a lot of folks on both sides of the border who are sort of saying, hey, everyone take a breath. Trump is actually going to wear himself out. These are the first 100 days. Try to think back to, Q1 of 2016 and the amount of chaos that came with that first 3 months. And I think there is a point to that. But so a couple things. First of all, I know that the rest of the world is actually watching what happens to Canada. So when I talk to diplomats or politicians from the UK or from France or from Germany, they are entirely focused on how bad is it going to be for Canada, because they're trying to make calibrations on how bad is it going to be for them. And so that is part of it. Now, from a leadership standpoint, just have a look at how many people who were speculated upon and rumored to be in the running to replace Justin Trudeau as Liberal leader when he announced January 6th that he intended to resign, very quickly came out to say, I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I don't want it. I'm out. And again, it's because not only the political, but the economic calculus has changed. And I hate to use the phrase poisoned chalice. But, if you were in politics for the politics of it, as opposed to the wartime management of it, then probably you had a moment to say, look, this doesn't look very fun. It sounds like it's going to be fairly awful. Maybe I don't have the temperament or the depth or the energy or the gravitas to be really what will be an economic wartime leader.
Certainly have heard those wartime references over the course of the last few weeks. Right now, though, we do have 4 candidates who seem to want to pick up this poison chalice, as you say, vying for the federal liberal leadership. So Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, Frank Baylis debated last night in French. Will participate in an English debate tonight. And so what did you make of what you heard last night, and what are you expecting tonight?
Well, politics is so regional. So this was, yes, the French language debate. And for those reasons, it was in many ways much more focused on Quebec, obviously, than it might have been in an English language debate, which we'll see tonight, which I suspect may, we may hear more of a touch around energy policy, less about sovereignty. But, the carbon tax, big issue, what to do around that. But again, Trump first, Trump last, Trump in the middle, and really who's best to deal with this White House. So you've heard already Chrystia Freeland saying, look, I've got the experience. I've been around government. I've seen this movie before. I'm best equipped to deal with this. Mark Carney definitely going to be presenting himself as the agent of change and the voice of change. A couple of takeaways from last night, Michelle, on the issue of language and why is that important. I think we don't often think about it here in British Columbia, but Quebecers are pretty exacting and have very high standards about what they believe is a level of fluency or competence in French. And so this was, for Mark Carney, not only his first coming out party on the national stage, so to speak, but actually his first coming out party en français. And so, he will be judged on that. And then coming into tonight, again, it will be interesting to see the extent to which the candidates are really prepared to take the gloves off. We didn't see much of that last night in the French debate. And are we going to see basically a level of discord, or mostly the candidates agreeing, because in part they don't want to be creating the clips or the sound bites of liberals bashing each other, which really just creates the attack ad that the Conservatives have the potential to run.
In fact, the Conservatives did seize on a moment last night, and you talk about fluency in French, and Mark Carney, who was the least capable when it comes to French fluency, he accidentally said a phrase that meant he agreed with Hamas. He was corrected quickly by Chrystia Freeland and clarified he is against Hamas and in favor of a two-state solution. Today, a post on X by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre saying, yesterday, Liberals showed they are going to protect Carney from any tough questions. Freeland even jumped in to save him for his "we agree with Hamas" gaffe. We got no answers about his new carbon tax, his past opposition to pipelines, the terrible job he did as Trudeau's economic advisor. So what do you make of Pierre Poilievre at this point and his approach to leadership?
So it's a really interesting question. In terms of his approach vis-a-vis the Liberals, continue to watch him try to paint Carney with the same brush of the last 10 years of the Justin Trudeau government. The extent to which that is working, I think, for Poilievre and for the Conservatives, the ballot question is changing in front of their eyes. They thought that they could coast on a 20-point lead in the polls to victory on the basis of antipathy towards the carbon tax. And you saw Poilievre mentioning that in his X post again, at a time when really the ballot question is so much more focused on who's best to deal with the Trump White House. So that's one aspect of things. But the other aspect of things is from a leadership position, we're really going to be watching to see the extent to which Pierre Poilievre can actually sharpen up and step up his game. He was able for more than a year to really just continue to see very high polling numbers and high levels of support for his party, less so for him personally. He's never been personally popular to the same extent that his party has been. Just by sort of, avoiding catastrophe, not saying or doing anything seen to be particularly stupid. Now he's going to have to focus, sharpen up, tighten up, and maybe own some of the gaffes that he's made in the past if and when the Liberal campaign machine chooses to sharpen its message against Poilievre. But we will save that for the campaign trail itself, which we're getting closer, but we're not quite there yet.
That's right. March 9th is when the Liberals choose their new leader, and following then, we'll watch for that election to be called. Shachi, as you pointed out this morning, a lot is happening. A lot is happening for sure. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Shachi Kurl, president of the Angus Reid Institute. And yes, the Liberal leadership debate in English is tonight. You can tune into CBC Newsnet for special coverage starting at 5 p.m. our time. Liberal Party chooses their next leader, its next leader on March 9th. Taking your calls, what is the kind of leader you're looking for right now from any party, any level of government? We see two leaders, two provincial premiers stepping down in the course of a few days for personal reasons. And so this comes at a time of a great uncertainty in Canada. So what is the kind of leadership you're looking for? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Roman is calling us from Port Alberni. Hi, Roman.
Hi, good afternoon. Good to be on your show again.
Yeah, welcome back. What are your thoughts on leadership and what's needed right now?
Well, what we need right now are the phrases you spoke of in talking about the byline of the show today, the topic. We need calm. We need deliberate, certain leadership. One that'll get us past the knee-jerk reaction and responses, the impassioned and embroiled reactions to what is going on all around us and how we got to put a stop to it now, in a thoughtful, slow, and deliberate way, and saying this is the best step to take, and we're willing to adjust and be humble enough to say we're willing to adjust as necessary to navigate through these uncertain, dark, and then rough waters so that we keep everyone safe and that we do the best job we can in the best way we can for all of us as one. And again, coming back to our tenet as Indigenous, everything is one. We can't be partisan. We can't be looking out for this group over that group because we're all BC and we're all in this together.
Roman, what do you make of what you're seeing so far then, in terms of the comments from leaders, the sort of retaliatory measures that are being proposed?
I think maybe we're being shown some things we need to learn from. I'm not sure if any of us are willing at this point to learn what we need to know. That's a personal responsibility we have to take upon ourselves. And if we forsake our duties, we become part of the problem in the long term. And I really hope enough of us show the next generation of voters, enough of us show the next generation of leaders that there is a better, more calm way of doing this than immediate gratification and immediate satisfaction, because that is not only short-sighted, but it is very narrow-sighted in terms of its approach.
Roman, always great to speak with you. Thank you very much for calling back.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Roman in Port Alberni. Basil is on the line now from Metro Vancouver. Hi, Basil. What kind of leadership are you looking for?
I'm looking for a person that will do something about the most important crisis of our time, which is the climate. All havoc is being created on the world, and especially now we've got a president down below us and who's really doesn't seem to care at all about the climate. He thinks the whole thing's a hoax. He doesn't believe anything what the scientists say. So we need someone to speak up and to be firm and to do something about this. Otherwise, regardless of anything else, we are facing a tremendously terrible future for our children and grandchildren and for all beings in all life in this planet. So we need someone, and the only one I can think that's running for the Liberal Party that could possibly be more concerned than anyone is Mark Carney. He seems to be more concerned about the climate than the other politicians that are running. But he's not the best in many respects, but I think he will do something about this most important crisis.
Basil, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care. Andy is next in Kimberley now. Hi, Andy. What kind of leadership are you looking for? What's needed right now?
I think we need leaders that are actually focused on solving the problems and not just attacking the other party as a strategy. Like when you look at the Pierre Poilievre's game plan, it just appears to be riding the current anti-Justin Trudeau wave. And when he's asked questions about actual policy or what he's going to do to, address our current issues, he immediately goes and just attacks the current government. And whether you like the current government or not, we just need someone that's going to be professional and actually try to solve the problem. And it's discouraging when you see all parties putting out attack ads and kind of, rather than, focusing on policy, they're just focusing on divisive style politics and attacking the other side. And this is quite frankly a time where everybody needs to be working together regardless of whether you're on the right or left. And yeah, it's just too bad to see that the state of politics comes to kind of attacking the other side rather than working with them and trying to do what's best.
Andy, great to hear from you in Kimberley. Thanks for the call.
Yeah,
and we're taking your call as well. What kind of leadership do you think is needed right now from any party or any level of government? And we're talking about this in light of the Liberal leadership debates taking place. So the English one tonight, and as well some news On the provincial leadership front, when it comes to Atlantic provinces, Newfoundland and Labrador's premier announcing this morning that it's time for him to move on. And he acknowledged this. He's making this announcement at a time of great uncertainty, and of course, the Trump tariff threat looms large over any of these leadership races. 1-800-825-5950 is our number, and 604-669-3733. And by email, bctoday@cbc.ca. We have a couple more here. Scott writes, trust in government is at an all-time low, and a key reason is poor decision-making by leaders operating outside their expertise. We need competent disclosure, a system where every decision-maker publicly declares their areas of expertise and is held accountable for staying within them. If a decision falls outside their competence, they must bring in an expert rather than making uninformed choices. This ensures better governance, reduces costly mistakes, and restores public trust. And another email here from Douglas, who writes, leaders and representative democracy is susceptible to corporate capture, so it's long overdue for a power to us all revolution like community consensus democracy. Organize, baby, organize at a neighborhood by neighborhood level to look after each other with cooperation instead of capture. It's time to demand leadership that is informed, accountable, and transparent. And Susan writes, true experience matters. And here is the thing, we no longer live in a world where one person can have all the answers. What we need is a leader in solidarity. In a leader is solidarity. And to me, solidarity means putting the common good ahead of personal interest. These are times when political experience is overrated. Thank you very much for your emails, bctoday@cbc.ca. Let's take a call now from Kyle in Coquitlam. Hi, Kyle.
Hi there. How are you?
I am fine. What are your thoughts on leadership and what's needed?
Well, yeah, I think we need definitely a multi-pronged approach. I've been fortunate to live in many provinces across Canada, and I think first and foremost, we need a political party that can really strengthen and take down the barriers between provinces and get our trade going freely between provinces so that we can be a stronger nation in itself. And then secondly, is also with, U.S. trade, right? We got to focus on U.S. trade and how we can better and strengthen our relationships, even if we, circumvent U.S. and try to do way more partnerships with South America and or in Europe.
That diversification we've been hearing about so much. And do you feel like there's now this attention on that interprovincial trade and lowering those barriers?
I do. I see a lot more discussion, but what I think we need a really laser-focused approach in how to get those barriers down between provinces and get the revenue flowing between provinces, and also just, reducing the rhetoric between, for what I call, lack of a better word, territorial, provincial pissings between each other. We're one nation, we're one, under one flag. We need to start working like that. There's a lot of pride in our country, and I think we need to have provinces recognize the strength of unity.
Kyle, good to hear from you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You take care, Kyle in Coquitlam. Thank you for all of your thoughts on what is needed in leadership right now. Of course, much more news coming your way throughout the day. More coverage of what's happening in the Atlantic provinces, where we've seen resignations from 2 premiers over recent days. And we'll, of course, cover the Liberal leadership debate tonight at 5 o'clock. 12:30 now, and you're with BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks so much for being with us. Really nice to be with you. In our next half hour, I don't know if you felt the earthquake this morning or last Friday. I certainly did. I felt a little bit of shaking at my desk as I had just finished doing the show. Went under my desk as I have been trained to do. I know perhaps some people did not, and some people were kind of wondering, is this an earthquake? But we are going to get some tips and talk about earthquake prep. Have you been thinking about your own preparation, your own plan, and what are the lessons that can be learned from our experience here in BC over the last couple of days or few days, and what lessons can be learned from other other regions and what they've experienced when it comes to earthquakes. So we'll take your calls on that coming up. And that is just after this CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The Heiltsuk First Nation on the Central Coast says the RCMP aren't enforcing its bylaws, which has led to a sense of fear and lawlessness in the community. The nation has filed a BC Supreme Court suit saying the Mounties are emboldening drug dealers by refusing to enforce Heiltsuk bylaws that can ban people from its reserve lands. Elected Chief Marilyn Slett says that refusal is worsening the harms caused from overdoses and sexual violence in the community. A flood watch advisory for BC's Nicola Valley has ended. The BC River Forecast Centre issued the notice last Thursday due to warmer weather in and around Merritt. Concerns were raised about fast snowmelts combined with heavy rain causing rivers to overflow. And Earthquakes Canada says a 5-magnitude earthquake struck last night off BC's coast. It happened before 10 o'clock, but there are no reports of it being felt. Comes after a 4.7 magnitude quake struck near Seashield on Friday. And now the forecast. The snowfall warning is in place for sections of Highway 3 on the north coast. Showers this afternoon with a high of 7. Highs to 7 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, some sun and cloud with a high of 6. Highs to 7 degrees with a few showers in the West Kootenay, mainly cloudy in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a chance of showers with a high of 7 as well. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, rain ending, then a bit of sunshine in some areas this afternoon with highs around 10. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Thank you so much, Rob. Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. This is BC Today here on CBC, and Pope Francis is named a new Archbishop for Vancouver today after the retirement of current Archbishop J. Michael Miller. Archbishop Richard Smith comes to Vancouver from Edmonton and will be installed in May this year. Pope Francis remains hospitalized with double pneumonia in Vatican City. CBC's Megan Williams has his update.
Well, the latest update came this morning, as it usually does, a reassuring note that the Pope had slept through the night. I talked to Vatican sources after, and the Pope seems to be doing okay. He's still in critical condition, but he's eating, he's sitting up. He seems to be in a good mood from what people are saying. As you mentioned, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who led the Mass or the prayer service last night to pray for Pope Francis, he visited the Pope yesterday. Signed off, or he had the Pope sign off on petitions for saints. So these are parishes that petition to have somebody in their parish made a saint, and the Pope has to sign off on that. So that's just an example of the kind of business as usual that the Pope is taking care of. He also spoke to a parish priest the day before in Gaza. This is somebody who he's been speaking to regularly in the last months when the Israeli-Hamas war began. So that's clearly important to him. He had that phone conversation. He still needs oxygen, though not as much as he did last weekend when he had that prolonged breathing crisis. So the situation seems a little bit more stable.
Well, BC has had 2 earthquakes in recent days. Last Friday's 4.7 magnitude earthquake near Seashield certainly got a lot of people talking about how ready BC might be for the big one. And last night, a 5.2 magnitude quake hit off the coast of Vancouver Island. It was not felt. Now, we want to hear from you, though. Do these recent earthquakes have you thinking about your own earthquake preparations? What do you want to know about BC's planned response? And what lessons do you think can be learned from these earthquakes and elsewhere? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you'd like to email us, we're at bctoday@cbc.ca. And we have two experts taking your calls today. Carlos Ventura is a professor of structural and earthquake engineering at UBC. Alison Bird is a seismologist and the outreach officer for the Earthquake Early Warning Program at Natural Resources Canada. She's joining us from Haida Gwaii. Hello to you both.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for being with us. I know there's been so much chatter about earthquakes in recent days, and you have been busy, I'm sure. Alison, we've heard you several times on the radio now, and so thank you for spending the time to just inform people about what we should know when it comes to earthquakes. And I heard the term wake-up call quite often after Friday's quake. So let us know what was the wake-up call there. What do you think were the lessons learned?
Well, I think it was a really great way for people to remember that they are living in earthquake country. This was a fairly minor earthquake, and it is a good indication you're going to be experiencing potentially larger earthquakes in the future. So it really is a good way for people to be reminded that they need to take some responsibility for their own care, make sure they have a kit, have a plan with their family, practice what to do. In other words, like we do every shakeout October, drop, cover, hold on. Drop to the ground to prevent yourself from getting toppled. Get underneath it. Something's going to protect you from falling debris, and hold on to it with one hand while covering your head and neck with the other. And then also it was a good test of our earthquake early warning system, which was implemented last May. It actually worked very well. It was detecting the earthquake, determining that it could be potentially harmful to some people, sending a message to the National Public Alerting System to trigger an alert to that specific area. And it worked. And people received the alert. Some people in the fringe areas received the alert and others didn't. They were not really in harm's way, but the people who would have received very strong shaking that could have potentially caused harm did receive the alert.
And I heard some questions around, did it depend on which provider you were with? Is there anything you need to sign up for in order to receive this early warning message if you are indeed in an area that has been affected?
There's no need to sign up. The National Public Alerting System works fully automatically to any cell phones, radios, and televisions in that area. So even visitors to the region should receive the alert, tourists will. So that's a really great way for the system to work. You don't opt in or out, it just automatically happens.
Okay, and Carlos, what about you from a seismic preparation standpoint and reliability standpoint? What are the engineering lessons that can be learned?
In this case, not much, because the level of shaking was relatively small. Of course, people felt it, and the structures shake. But as Alison said, we are in an earthquake country, and whenever an earthquake happens, things are going to move. But from the performance point of view, we did not expect to see any damage or significant distress in any of the structures. Nevertheless, it's a good reminder that our structures need to be safe, and we have many structures in the province that still need to be strengthened to be able to perform well during an earthquake.
Okay, and so tell me about that. What progress is being made on addressing that?
Well, we have different programs. I'm going to start with the transportation system. The Ministry of the Transportation has, over the years, been retrofitting many of the important bridges in the province, and that's an example of what has been done. BC Hydro has been looking after the dams and their facilities to ensure that they are up to the standards of today. Although they were designed many years ago to the standards of that day, you need to check to see if they will meet the requirements of that. We have the seismic retrofit guidelines for the public schools in the province, and the Ministry of Education has been following that for the last 20 years in slowly but surely retrofitting schools. We also have hospitals that have been reviewed and retrofitted. Of course, you always want to say, oh, we want to do this faster, we want to do more, but you have to keep in mind that this work is costly and it takes time and efforts to do that. But these are examples of what we have done and the efforts by many organizations to be sure that we have structures that will respond adequately during an earthquake and they will remain functional, especially hospitals, fire stations, police stations, etc., that are definitely high priority that need to be functional during and after the earthquake. And then we have other types of structures that you want to be sure that they will be safe to occupy after an earthquake.
My guest, Carlos Ventura, who is a professor of structural and earthquake engineering at UBC. Alison Bird is a seismologist and the outreach officer for the Earthquake Early Warning Program at Natural Resources Canada. We're asking you, do these recent earthquakes in BC have you thinking about your own earthquake prep and planning? And is there something you want to know about BC's response? What are the lessons do you think that we can learn from the last couple of days or elsewhere, other regions that have experienced earthquakes? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Henry is in Port Moody. Hi, Henry.
Hello.
Hi, what do you want to say about earthquake? Hi, nice to talk to you.
One thing you don't, most people don't hear, but I heard at a PTA meeting once, is that never have heavy stuff over your bed that could fall on you, like big heavy picture or stuff on shelves.
Right.
And also have shoes by your bed in case there's broken glass so you can get out safely.
Yeah, really good. You know, I actually thought about that a few years ago. I had quite a heavy frame above my bed, and I thought, I don't think that needs to be there. So now I have nothing. But and so, Henry, this was a course that you took, did you say?
Yeah, it was for the school for the parent course a long time ago.
Right.
But they don't teach that. You don't hear that very often. Don't put stuff in it, and you see people with art, all kinds of stuff above their bed.
Yeah.
That shakes. That's going to knock you out. Then you're not be able to get out at all.
That's a really good point, and I'm glad that you raised it, Henry. Thank you very much. Let's ask Alison and Carlos about that. Yes, what can you tell us about what needs to be secured? Because I know sometimes, you'll look for furniture and it'll say they sell them with pegs to secure them to the wall. So we actually have an email here. Pardon me, this is an email from Margaret, and this is quite tied into the point about pictures. Margaret writes, I live in Nanaimo and felt the earthquake last Friday. First, I heard a loud boom. Then the shaking started. The pictures on my walls were shaking back and forth. I'm surprised they didn't tumble to the floor. I did all the wrong things. Ran to the window when I heard the boom, thinking a large truck had hit our condo building. Thank you very much, Margaret. Well, lesson learned there, I guess. But good point about the pictures. So, Alison, can you tell us about how we should place or secure things in our home?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great information online. The Prepared BC website, also the Shakeout BC website, both have information on this. But certainly walk around your house. Look at things like tall or heavy furniture and appliances. All of those should be strapped to studs. They certainly are in my home and at my office. I encourage everyone to do that. Also, that gentleman mentioned heavy shoes, sturdy shoes under your bed, also a flashlight. It's going to be dark because there probably won't be any electricity. So you want to be able to see, things may have shifted and there might be, as you said, broken glass, other debris.
Yeah.
You don't want to be walking on that in bare feet or slippers. Also an N95 mask. We don't want to be breathing building dust after an earthquake. And then also where you store things, heavier items should go down low, on low shelves or in low cupboards, because they fly out of shelves and out of cupboards when there's a strong shaking. So, things like canned goods go down low, heavy books, that sort of thing. And then lighter items go up top, your cereals and things like that. And storm chips or whatever people have. And then also just walk around. As you said, the pictures are a big concern. Never have a heavy picture over the head of your bed or over the head of your sofa, because people could be sitting there during the earthquake.
I don't mean to be cheeky, but I'm looking at both of you and what's behind you. I see a big mirror behind you, Alison, and Carlos. I see a shelf full of books.
Well, I'm on Haida Gwaii, as you noted. I'm staying at a guest house, but This is a guest house that is run by a lady who's very earthquake aware. I wish I could show you. There's a 72-hour grab and go kit on the back
Wonderful.
of the door. There's a big sign about what to do in an earthquake and tsunami, and everything is really secured.
There you go. Yeah. Yes, those are secure then. And what do you have to say for yourself, Carlos?
Yeah. Well, no, the books behind me are, I use a mat under that we, many years ago, we did some testing here at UBC on the shake table to find ways to secure books from shelves. And we have a product like those mats that you put on your collar or glasses, etc. If you put that under the books will stay in place. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at least for much of the shaking. And then, of course, my desk on that is, the books are about 2 feet behind the desk.
Right, so that helps out. You know what? I'm really glad I asked, because that gives, I think, some clarification for people, and perhaps some ideas as well. I have a big bookshelf as well. I need to think about that. Any advice from you as well, Carlos, about securing things in our home?
Yeah, Alison mentioned a number of things, but one thing that is also important is your water heater. Okay? It's usually standing, and again, based on studies that we have done here at UBC, and what works best for water heaters is just secure it to the. Usually, you have the water heater in the basement of the house or in a room for that, and you can go to Home Depot and buy some straps and strap that to the wall or to the ceiling rafters. The idea is that the water heater will not overturn, because then you will lose water and then you have a big mess with all the water coming out. So that's something that we have learned about that. And the point that Alison made about having shoes and lights by bed is extremely important. When I visited Turkey in 2023 after the earthquake, and we saw how some of the buildings that were severely damaged, and we went to a 13-story building that was still okay, and we walked down the stairs trying to visualize how people got out of the building. It was 4 in the morning, no lights, lots of debris and glass on the on the stairs, and it would have been a terrible experience for people there. And most of them were using their cell phones as a flashlight, but shoes were extremely important because there was a lot of nails and debris and concrete and glass, etc. So extremely important to have that to protect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly a devastating earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria as well. We're taking your calls, asking you, are you thinking about your own earthquake preparation? What are the lessons that can be learned, whether here in BC or elsewhere? Our numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And Sean has a good question calling in from Vancouver. Hi, Sean, welcome. Go ahead.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, it's about, I guess it would be Brahman Ma.
Bowen Ma.
She's in charge of the disaster relief, but she's not with us today. But there's just a contingency plan for the Vancouver area. If there's one in place to assist the people quickly, that would be in the one main spot, because all our bridges would be possibly taken out or collapsed, and then everybody would be stuck without any land transportation or access outside of the area. That if the federal government or provincial government has immediate supplies in place, like food, water, temporary shelter, to assist the population in Vancouver and Richmond and outlying areas.
It's a great question, Sean. Thank you so much. I'm going to put that to Carlos. And as we know, the City of Vancouver has confirmed there was no damage to Vancouver's bridges after the earthquake. There has been talk of the city seeking or recommending spending another $35 million to earthquake-proof Cambie Street Bridge. So that's a plan, a report that's been presented, but no damage from Friday. last night. But what do we know about how structurally sound the bridges are and what contingency plans might be in place, Carlos?
Yes, okay. The Canby Bridge has been one that is being considered for seismic retrofit. You mentioned earthquake-proof. In engineering, we don't use that term. We use earthquake resistance because it's very different to have a proof, something proof, and something that resists the earthquake. So the idea is to provide enough capacity for, I don't want to use Canby, but other bridges and structures that we want to provide them enough capacity so that they will resist the shaking and be able to operate after the earthquake, or perhaps minor repairs will have to be done because there's always, no matter what the size of the earthquake, there might be some minor things that will need to be repaired. But the idea is to have these repairs done as soon as possible, either within hours or 24 hours, depending on what has happened in the vicinity of the bridge.
Wow.
Typically, bridges, the most significant problem is the access to the bridge, not the bridge itself. So we call the approaches. The approaches are usually the ones that the ground settles, and then you have to repave it, etc. But the bridge should be operational.
And you're saying that can be the bridge itself, there can be repairs done within hours?
Yeah, well, that depends on what is the retrofit that is being designed, right? Again, in the earthquake resistant process, you have to determine your objectives of what is the retrofit for. For example, if I'm retrofitting a hospital, my objective will be to ensure that the hospital is functional during and after the earthquake, or if there is minor things, they can be fixed right away. Okay. And in a bridge, the same thing, right? Depends on what is your expectation that the bridge should be operational. And the Canadian Bridge Code provides the guidelines of what should be the design objectives for a bridge, or how the retrofit should be done based on what the owner and operator of the bridge decides to have for a bridge, because not all the bridges are required to be fully functional. We like to have the bridges that are in the routes that are emergency routes that will allow emergency people to go from one place to another.
Right.
Those bridges should be very functional almost immediately after the earthquake. So there is a whole philosophy of how to retrofit a structure and for what purpose, and of course, how much money will be required for that.
And concerns still about the approaches then to these bridges.
Exactly, yeah. But most for all, life protection is paramount, okay? No person should be injured from that. And from there on, you develop your own higher objectives to say the bridge should be operational within 24 hours after the earthquake, or 12 hours after the earthquake, or immediately after that. So all of that is how we are following the earthquake philosophy today.
And it sounds like directing resources as well in terms of how they're divided. And so, Alison, what should people do then? Say you are on a bridge during an earthquake.
Well, it's tricky, but you should, pull over somewhere safe, set the parking brake, and just stay in the car. We are hoping to get to the point with the earthquake early warning system where access to the bridges and tunnels in Vancouver will be cut off so that people don't go onto the bridges or into the tunnels. And hopefully the people who are on the bridge or in the tunnels will be able to leave before the strong shaking arrives. Of course, that depends on how far the bridge or tunnel is from the earthquake. The further away you are, the more warning time you have. But that's one of the goals of our system is in the future we'll have that in place.
Okay, but you're saying if you were to be on a bridge, if you happen to be on a bridge, park, put your car in park and pull over.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, you don't want to be moving around because it can actually be quite tricky to drive if the shaking is very strong. Also, the bridge itself is not necessarily the most dangerous part of the structure. It's the on and off ramps, which are most dangerous. Those are the ones the parts that tend to fail because they're moving they're sort of being pulled between two parts that are moving differently. So that's the weakest point. And probably Carlos has a lot more knowledge about this than I.
And he did allude to that the approaches are where the concerns are most significant. Trace is on the line in Vancouver now about earthquake packs, emergency packs. Hi, Trace.
Hello.
Great question. Go ahead.
Yeah, about 15 years ago, they probably need replacing. I got these ready. One's called a ready kit, and the other one's called a ready meal, and has food for one person, I think. But it was put together by St. John Ambulance and the Salvation Army, and I got it at London Drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very, very convenient to pick up these two.
But you're
packs.
thinking it's time to replace it.
I'm sorry?
You're thinking it's time to replace it.
Perhaps. I don't know. I think it's all dried food, and it has the one with gloves and a radio and everything probably is still good. Yeah.
Okay, Trace, thank you very much.
But it'd be interesting to know if they're still available at London Drugs.
Right. Do we still have those kits? I'm not sure if you would know, Alison. Kits are being sold.
There are a lot of suppliers of emergency products, and I have to say they've gotten a lot better since I was a kid and we'd go camping with the dreadful food. The food's a lot more palatable, and some of it lasts for 25 years, which is quite something. And when you consider how the cost of food goes up over time, it's actually quite a good investment. I do have quite a bit of that food, but I also have other food that I really like to eat because if I've been through the trauma of an earthquake, I find comfort in good food. I especially like spicy food. So I've got Indian curries in there and some chili peppers to sort of flesh out my kit and make it more interesting.
Wow.
And you do have to think about, all of the members of your family, including your pets, how are you going to feed them, medications. One thing that came out of the Fort Mac fires is people getting eye infections because they didn't have the contact lens solutions that they needed.
Okay.
So think about hygiene in all sorts of ways. And really just think about how would you camp for 2 weeks?
Right. I have to jump in. Unfortunately, my apologies, but do go to Prepared BC and Shakeout BC for everything you need to know. Thank you so much, Alison and Carlos.